It's about damn time. With 4 and other numbered games in the franchise, after 4, Dynasty Warriors 9 would finally get its Empire's expansion. Albeit it was delayed for about a year and a half or so because of the fact of when it first debuted its release date and its release trailer, it was critically panned. More importantly, everybody remembered the disastrous launch of Dynasty Warriors 9. Despite the fact that 9 got a worth it on my review, it still had terrible things about the game. Here's the thing. Does Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires have terrible aspects of the game with some good latent in it? Or is it going to be a flash in the pan? Or maybe it just might be the best Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires? Who knows? That's what this review is all about. To try to give you as much of an in-depth review as humanly possible to all the aspects besides the story, because after all, Empire's games don't have stories because they are actually spin-offs. And just like with Dynasty Warriors 9's review, I'm going to talk about the bad and the good of this game. That way, I can give you as much of an in-depth look as humanly possible. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for the Dynasty Warriors 9 Empire Review. Let's go! Best Dynasty Warrior experience ever? Well, I'm about to flip the goddamn table on that subject! In what universe do we have to have an option for stability as far as gameplay and graphics is concerned? Koei, here's a good idea. How about you have stability on both by default? You did that in past games. Why didn't you do that here? Now you'd think that you'd be able to pick your own land if you were a ruler in this game. Nope, it's RNG. And even after I defeated this game twice, once in Gathering of Heroes and once in the Yellow Turban Rebellion, I should have been able to pick my own land. Nope, it's not the case. It's all RNG and randomized. Yeah, that's right, RNG just plagues this game. You want to know what's even worse? Even if you're an officer or a vagrant, you're going to be picked up by a ruler. And God forbid if you do, because it's going to be a random ruler. Doesn't matter who, they'll pick you up. And more importantly, they'll have you serve that ruler and you won't be able to do anything. Or even worse, they'll force you to try to raise your flag as a vagrant. Now what kind of gaming experience forces you to do things you don't want to do? Come on now, Koei. Speaking of vagrant leaders, guess what constantly pops up even if you manage to conquer a majority of the lands? And even if you have just about every unaffiliated officer in an S rank, they will still try to take your land and will keep fighting until you've conquered everything. God damn it. Sadly, the War Council is also RNG. That is, unless you're a ruler and you set the variables, but even then the kingdom objectives are pretty much randomized. But if you're Grand General to a General, well guess what? You're gonna have to wait for the Emperor or ruler to give you your objective. Yeah, you'll be able to challenge them, but sometimes you won't be able to get your plan through. And speaking of Emperor, there's only two ways for you to become Emperor in this game. One, you gotta take the Emperor in, and two, you gotta ignore the Emperor twice. Why is that important? Well, the Emperor being brought in will give you promotion and ranks, which will allow you to do more tasks, like for instance, interact with your officers more. However, here's the thing. In order for you to become the Emperor by doing those two things, like letting him in or just ignoring him twice, you gotta spend 9,999 golden resources just to force the guy to abdicate. Something that you did not have to do back in Dynasty Warriors 6, 7, and 8 Empires. You could just simply claim it for yourself, but that's how things work here in this damn game. The stratagems of Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires have been replaced with secret plans. Secret plans, which you can use to not only up the friendship level of the character whose plan you're using, but also will give your team the advantage if you complete the objectives for the secret plan, but also will give the enemy morale if you fail. Now, for those of you who are wondering why I'm highlighting that one specific secret plan, there's a real simple reason. Do not under any circumstances let your enemy summon any of the elemental beasts. Sometimes you can't avoid it because the enemy will already do so and will force you to fight it. But then again, there's padding and then there's difficulty. The elemental beasts are padding. Simple as that. RNGs is so bad in this game that it even affects, of all things, the weapons. Difficulty does matter, but it actually helps the gacha system, not actually improves the difficulty. So you're gonna have to play it on a higher difficulty to get epic or legendary by chance. And by the way, in order for those weapons to be upgraded, you need artifacts, which also is under the gacha system. So yeah, RNGs is pretty much affected the weapons, but the gems you can buy out of the store at any time, provided you find rare gems and also epic and legendary gems in the store. It's definitely a shame as to how they handle the weapons here, and 8 Empires did things a lot better. How do you screw this up by turning weapon systems into gachas? While oaths and marriages work the same way in Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires as they do in 9, the difference is the children. You don't get children until you manage to complete the playthrough of Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. And whoever you have married, be they a man, woman, or woman, man, it doesn't matter, they're gonna give birth to a child. And that child, depending on the officer, is gonna look like a booger beast. No, you really don't believe me? You're about to find out in a few seconds that child's gonna look like a booger beast when they grow up. And unfortunately, they're not even available 6 months after they're born. Again, you gotta start another playthrough with that child, which is, by the way, an achievement. But look, they look like booger beasts, and with the limited creative options and the most expansive creative engine ever based off of Neo, you can't help this! As far as for the creation is concerned, Neo only focused on the facial features and also the hair of the officer. They didn't do anything about the armor because the armor was limited. Hey, what do you know? This game takes everything that's wrong with Neo's creation system and just upped it 100-fold. Yes, you can make your character look more like an anime girl, or more like a real-life person, or more like an anime guy, it doesn't matter. However, with children, you're not going to be able to do that. Because unlike Dynasty Warriors 8, where you can edit children outside of the Empires mode, you can't do that here. Why did you do that, Koei? That was really dumb. Let me rephrase that. You can't edit the way of life of children. because the gender is already set. You can't really fix that. That's been a thing since Dynasty Warriors and Empires. But the way of life, you can't fix that. You can change the weapons, but that's it. And here's the thing, there's only a limited amount of voices. You can't even change the pitch. There's a good number of hair, about maybe 30 bits of hair, and you can change hairstyle, like the front and the back. But here's the thing, it's limited, very limited as far as sex is concerned. Because there's only so much things you can do with the hairstyles. Yes, you can mix and match and change the color of the hair, but that's not going to, however, make things original, because here's the thing. You have 850 characters and a limited amount of creativity for them. Oh, yeah, and by the way, then there's the armor pieces. Let's not forget about the armor pieces. By default, you only have at least 13 armor pieces for regular armor and 13 civilian clothes. All in all, the only way you can get more is through DLC. How in the hell do you even come up with that decision, Koei? Because see, here's the thing, even Dynasty Warriors 8 gave you stuff to work with, and even more so, you get to unlock new things if you manage to beat the game. Not here in 9, oh no. Oh, and now that I stop to think about it, the weapons will only be available if you somehow, some way, have Dynasty Warriors 9 and download all the DLC weapons. Yeah, because all the weapons you have by default are clone weapons. Yes, they've made their return too. I think I'm gonna harp more on that because Koei needs to stop that shit. They seriously do. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be one of the most deepest created characters. So, I mean, this right here is just a mistake. Oh, and now that I stop to think about it, there's one other thing I need to mention. The troops that you're supposed to edit, all of that, sometimes you're going to be able to get it if you with a character that actually beat the game. But other times, you gotta at least have an edit character to beat the game first. And then all the troops and all the way of life will be available. But God forbid if you're related to a child, because guess what? If the child comes in, they won't be able to change the troops because they only got 3 sets of troops: infantry, archer, and cavalry. And they won't be able to change their way of life. So yeah, it's basically going to be the way of life of the mother and the troops of the father, or vice versa. I'm not too particular, but at least you can change their weapon. That is something I can say, but unfortunately, again, clone weapons, that is a thing. So, all I can say is at least you could change your title, albeit if you want to, but this is really depressing. But you want to know what's more depressing than the created characters? The DLC, of course. Look at me, I'm Koei Tecmo. Because our audience keep buying our games, that means we're going to keep putting on season passes and DLC and pre-order bonuses that should already be in the game that we should be able to unlock from the get-go. But nope, we're too stupid to learn our lesson because we're Koei Tecmo, and we never change, ever. And of course, 9 Empires shares the same problem as 9 in the music department, because they only have maybe 3 good songs and the rest suck. For 9, making everything 8 backwards having to represent its entire soundtrack. You thought they'd actually fix that problem, but no. No, they did not. And guess what's back? The open world. Nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for this. And Koei swore that they would get rid of the open world, but here it is! Here it is! In all of its painful dullness. The only thing you can do in this game, as far as the open world is concerned, is travel the world and beat up bandits and beasts. That's it. Because back in Dynasty Warriors 9, at least you were able to fish for food. At least you were able to pick up herbs, spices, elements. At least you had crafting. At least you had something to do. At least you can meet characters at your hideaway. Chill out with them and they give you stuff. At least you had something you could take your time with the game. Here, all you have is a bunch of empty, boring, lifeless terrain with nothing but bandits, deer, wolves, bears, and the occasional lightning animal. I mean, elemental animal. Might as well say lightning, because more than likely the one thing you'll run into is the lightning bear. Ah, god damn it. Why did you bring this back, Koei? Just why? It's not fun. And more importantly, the only thing that the open world does is just waste people's time. Oh, yeah, and here's the other kicker. You honestly think it's gonna be a two-player experience? You know, originally 9 was a one-player game before they actually updated it to be a two-player game. And now, this game is also a one-player game. Are they gonna update this to be a two-player game? Fuck no! Cause you wanna know what? Koei's not gonna do anything until they start losing money. And by that time, the game would be well in its development cycle. God have mercy, why is this back? And if you take this for whining, well, you have not played Dynasty Warriors 9. I have! It's on my channel right now, and you can wholeheartedly see just how much the game kills itself trying to generate the open world. As if we needed it. Seriously. How in God's name did they screw up the way of life system? Back in Dynasty Warriors 8, when you got the way of life system, that meant you were either the ultimate good or the ultimate bad. And you can use that way of life in the New Game Plus whenever you want. You can't do that in 9. Also, the way of life affects how much you raise the compatibility of your troops. And the worst part about it is, there's certain troops you have to be compatible with. At an S rank, Wu Bu, Dong Chua, as you see on the screen, Cao Cao, Peng Tong, Guan Yu, Xiao Yun, and Liu Bei, in order for to get the specialty horses. Yeah, that's right, the specialty horses is tied to the compatibility to your troops, to those specific guys I just mentioned. That's just mind-boggling how you just make compatibility important, but yet also make it to where the way of life is going to be the one thing that hampers you from recruiting them. Because certain people will actually be easier to recruit if you're a certain way of life. And yeah, that can be RNG, and interacting with them will only make it either faster or slower depending again on your way of life. So not only did the way of life get shafted, but now it too has fallen under the guise of RNGesus. If you're expecting a lot of event battles, don't. There's only 4, with the usual suspects being the alliance against Dong Zhuo as you see on your screen, the Battle of Guandu and the Battle of Chirbi, but a new one that isn't in any of the Dynasty Warriors Empires games, which is the Battle of Wushang Plains. However, all the conditions for each battle is also under the tutelage of RNGesus, meaning you never know what the computer is going to do. Whether the computer is going to attack the person that needs to be with the land in question, or they're going to just end up destroying them, or that person will destroy the other person, or the troops that you're supposed to have in the Battle of Wushang Plains never show up or is possibly killed. It's RNG and it's ridiculous. I'm lucky I got this event to show this off for the review, because Dong Zhuo almost screwed it up by trying to attack Yuan Shao. See what I mean? And Yuan Shao needed to be alive in order for this cutscene to show up. How do you ruin this, Koei? How? Now, are there any pros to this game at all with all the cons I just mentioned? Actually, there is some good in this game. First off, the battle system, which practically is important. While yes, it is a return for Dynasty Warriors 9, which you can actually turn off, believe it or not. You can also turn off Officer Look. You can also turn off the insta-kill for the officers to try to make it more challenging, and more importantly, it is challenging due to the fact of the rock, paper, scissors format. This time around is based on the troops you have, which is either arrow troops, infantry troops, or cavalry troops. And yeah, while the base system is still confined to the amount of enemies that are there, you basically can mow them down without any problem, or you can actually upgrade your base. And again, difficulty does matter in order for you to get the RNG, but still, if you up the difficulty, yeah, you're in for one hell of a fight. Because the difficulty on hard is based on ultimate mode for Dynasty Warriors 9, and that means chaos is based on Musou mode. So yeah, you're gonna get your ass kicked. And people have been preaching and begging for more difficulty, and by God, you're gonna get it. Now, in order for you to actually help yourself in battle, you got stratagems. Unlike Dynasty Warriors 8, you can't set altars or things like that, but the stratagems is basically you healing your troops, healing yourself, buffing yourself with attack buffs or defense buffs, and raising morale or throwing elemental attacks. I mean, it's kind of limited to what you have as far as stratagems is concerned, but at least you actually can pull them whenever you want. Sometimes the stratagems will actually add on to the stratagem counter, as in make it longer for it to be recharged, but at the same time, there's some stratagems that can instantly recharge, so you can spam them again, so you'll be able to save yourself a lot of trouble and a lot of time. Also, the one thing that needs to be noted is the top right hand corner of the screen of the battle thus far, which is the morale meter. No longer the red and blue would actually mean you'll get a high morale boost. Oh no, the red and blue now means the troop count, and also means that if that troop count reaches 0, that means everyone on the field is susceptible to capture without capture soldiers. And capture soldiers are one of the things you can actually get from a way of life. However, with capture soldiers, you can easily capture any officer depending on how RNG goes. But the less troops they have, the easier it is for you to capture them. And more importantly, as far as for the shift in morale, if you capture all the bases, or if a ram manages to break down the door, or if you manage to climb over the wall and break open the door to a castle, you will have a decisive battle. However, if they do that to you, well, it's gonna royally suck for you, because the morale will exceedingly increase for the enemy, and you are gonna have to fight off legions of enemies in order for you to at least survive a defense. And don't say that you're not going to get into a defense, because guess what? You will have to get into a defense. Because in this game, if any forces take your territory, they're going to capture all of your men. They're only need at least 3 defenses, if not 2, to chip your defenses down to 0. Meaning anything 15 or below, they'll take. So you might want to try to defend your territory at any cost. And if anything, you're going to have to try to make sure that you have the advantage, all the stratagems. And that's the other thing. The secret plans that I had, well, yes, they are RNG, but sometimes your secret plans can turn the tides of battle, and sometimes their secret plans can turn the tides of battle in the enemy's favor. However, the swan song doesn't end for you if you run out of troops. Oh no, the swan song ends if you lose your main base and you die. But as for the enemy, all you have to do is take them down. That's it. That's all. You can't really take their main base like talking about it. This goes for all the lords as well. So yeah, taking their bases is going to be the main objective. Not to mention defeating all the enemy officers, so that way you'll be able to do objectives easily. And if you get a high ranking and completion time, that's more merit for you. You get a bond with allies. It'll be easier for you to capture those fuckers. And some of the stratagems you get will be added onto your reputation. And not to mention, whoever you bring to battle, if they perform well, they'll actually gain some likability. And also, you can at least buy some troops, provided that they want to join you. And if they don't, you can either release them or take the heal route and execute them, if Officer's Death is on. There is a bit of good news though. At least, if you do have to be the last person standing, they can't really capture your base without taking you out first. And on top of the fact that you could still one-man army everyone in the entirety of the stage, despite you having literally no troops left. You can also drop their troops down to 0 and force them to be in a desperate situation. And the same thing can also happen to you when they're the ones that are on the defense and you're on the offense, which, as you can see, just recently happened. So, with that said, at least the battle system actually makes it to where, even though you're at a very, very bad disadvantage, you can come back at any time. And that's something no other Dynasty Warriors games have actually done. If you're on a disadvantage in previous games, you're just screwed. Period. End of story. But not here. You want the biggest sigh of relief? No stamina meter. Thank the Lord. You can run as fast as you want forever, and you will be able to travel lots and lots of areas. Albeit the areas are still dead and empty, but that's not the point. You'll be able to travel at a fast speed without having to worry about stamina, or without having to worry about a horse to travel faster with, let alone, here's the kicker, without having to worry about a run button. Yes, the run button no longer exists. Now that button is used for the stratagems and secret plans. And also, you no longer have to worry about having to buy any more arrows for your quiver, because guess what? The arrows are infinite. The only thing you need to worry about is the type of arrows you need to buy, which is a good thing because at least you'll be able to buy those as opposed to the weapons that are trapped under a gotcha. But that's not the point. The point of the matter is you'll be able to fire some of the best arrows in the game, including dispersion explosive arrows. So you'll be rapid firing explosive dispersive arrows throughout the entirety of the board, pretty much decimating everybody that stands in your wake. So, in other words, you will be a walking bazooka. Even though bazookas are no longer in this game thanks to Koei. The point is, at least with the arrows, you will be able to give yourself some free range so you don't have to rush in on enemies. At least in this game. You also do not have to worry about the frame rate killing every time you try to fire an arrow like you did in the original game. At least the frame rate doesn't kill, period. But the best part is there's barely any load times. There are going to be load times, but not enough to slow down the game. Not enough to just be like 10, 20, 2, 3, 5, 6 minute load times like I had in my playthrough of Dynasty Warriors 9. At least you don't have to worry about that. Now I know you're thinking I'm going to talk about the graphics. No, the graphics is going to be just the same way you see here on the PlayStation 4. They'll be just as bland as they are on the PlayStation 5, Xbox One X, or Xbox Series X, or any other high-resolution console. Do not let any reviewer tell you otherwise. But at least there are some fun things I can say about the game, like the objective I just did here. You don't even have to face Lu Bu in the event. Nope, you can just simply defeat Diao Chan. You know, the one person who you do not defeat in Dynasty Warriors when Lu Bu is on the field. You can defeat her and force Lu Bu to run off of the battlefield and you will automatically win. The game insists that you do that because Lu Bu is nigh invulnerable and difficulty actually matters. See, Koei? You're making people think with their heads. Something that happens to be the biggest complaint from a lot of people. So with that said, I think it's time to go to the rating. And with all the pros and cons compiled, here is the rating for today's game. Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires gets a meh. And the reason for that is, despite the year-long hiatus, and despite having to at least play with a better battle system on day one, there's still too much stuff in the game that needed to not be there, like the open world, or the DLC, or even the option to stabilize the game. The game should be stabilized day one, but at least the game makes you think, and at least difficulty matters. Still, restrictive creative options is kind of a pain in the ass. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, this has been my review for Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires. And yeah, I am still grinding on Dynasty Warriors 8, which is why it's taken me so goddamn long. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time.